Every morning, millions of people over the age of 60 sit down to the same breakfast they've been eating for decades. It feels familiar. It feels safe. The box says heart healthy. Maybe it even says whole grain. And for years, your doctor probably never once mentioned it. But what if the food you trusted most, the one sitting quietly on your kitchen table right now, has been doing something inside your body that no one warned you about? What researchers have uncovered in the last decade about this one common breakfast staple is, frankly, alarming. Not because it's exotic or unusual, but because it is everywhere. It's affordable. It's heavily marketed to people over 50. And after the age of 60, the biological damage it causes accelerates in ways that are deeply specific to how aging bodies process glucose, manage inflammation, and regulate the microenvironment inside your cells. And here's the part that will change how you look at your breakfast forever. Cancer cells don't behave like normal cells. They feed differently. They thrive on a very specific fuel source. And this morning, Staple floods your bloodstream with exactly that fuel, every single day, before 9 a.m. We're going to break down the science, simply, clearly, and completely. Stay with me, because by the end of this video, you'll know exactly what to replace it with. Let's start with the biology, because understanding why this happens is what makes everything else make sense. Inside every cell in your body, there is a metabolic engine. Scientists call it the mitochondria. Think of mitochondria like tiny power plants, converting the food you eat into clean, usable energy. When you're young, these power plants are efficient, adaptive, and resilient. But research from the Buck Institute for Research on Aging shows that after 60, mitochondrial function declines measurably, meaning your cells become less capable of managing certain fuels without generating harmful byproducts. And this is where it gets important, because cancer cells have a fundamentally different relationship with fuel than healthy cells. In 1931, German physician Otto Warburg first documented what is now called the Warburg effect, a phenomenon where cancer cells preferentially consume glucose at a rate up to 200 times higher than normal cells. They essentially hijack the body's energy supply. And here's the critical connection: refined carbohydrates, specifically the highly processed, sugar-dense grains found in most commercial breakfast cereals, white breads, and flavored oatmeal products, cause sharp, rapid spikes in blood glucose levels. A 2023 meta-analysis published in the British Journal of Nutrition found a statistically significant association between high glycemic breakfast foods and elevated systemic inflammation markers in adults over 55, particularly C-reactive protein and interleukin-6, both of which are linked to cancer proliferation environments. But the mechanism goes even deeper than blood sugar. And this next layer is the part most people completely miss. In this video, we're going to cover 3 critical layers of this problem, and then give you the 3 foods that researchers currently believe are among the most protective choices for breakfast after 60. First, exactly which breakfast foods are driving this glucose cancer connection, and why the healthy label on the box is misleading you. Second, what happens inside your gut and your immune system in the 90 minutes after eating these foods. And third, how to replace them practically and deliciously starting tomorrow morning. Let's start with the food itself, because the answer might genuinely shock you. The food we're talking about isn't something obscure. It's commercial breakfast cereal, specifically the refined grain, high-sugar varieties that dominate supermarket shelves. And we're also including in this category sweetened instant oatmeal, flavored granola, commercial white bread toast with jam, and most store-bought muffins and pastry items marketed as morning foods. These foods share one thing in common: a glycemic index above 65, meaning they raise blood sugar rapidly and significantly within minutes of consumption. Now here's where things become fascinating and slightly uncomfortable. A landmark study from Harvard's T.H. Chan School of Public Health followed over 42,000 adults across 16 years and found that people with the highest glycemic load diets had significantly elevated risks for colorectal, pancreatic, and endometrial cancers compared to those with low glycemic eating patterns. And the risk was more pronounced in adults over 60 because aging bodies lose insulin sensitivity naturally, meaning the glucose spikes from these foods become more prolonged and more damaging over time. Dr. David Ludwig, a leading researcher at Harvard, describes this as a permissive metabolic environment, one where elevated insulin and glucose create conditions in which abnormal cells can grow more aggressively than they otherwise would. But the gut connection is even more alarming, and this matters even more after 60. Here is something your doctor may never have explained. Every time you eat, your immune system becomes activated. Not in a dramatic, symptomatic way, but at a cellular, molecular level. Your gut and your immune system are in constant conversation. And in the 90 minutes following a high-sugar, high-refined carb meal, that conversation becomes inflamed. Scientists call this postprandial inflammation, a temporary but recurring state of immune activation that follows every high glycemic meal. The problem is that after 60, the body's ability to resolve inflammation between meals is significantly reduced. Research published in Nature Aging in 2022 describes a phenomenon called inflammaging, a state of chronic, low-grade systemic inflammation that accelerates in older adults and is directly linked to cancer, cognitive decline, cardiovascular disease, and accelerated cellular aging. What researchers discovered next changed everything about how we think about morning meals. When you eat a high glycemic breakfast every single morning, before your body has even fully activated for the day, you are essentially triggering this inflammatory cycle 7 days a week, 365 days a year, compounding year after year. And in that chronic, smouldering environment of inflammation, cancer cells find exactly the conditions they need to go undetected and unchallenged by your immune system. And this brings us to the third layer, the one that offers real hope. If you're still here, and I hope you are, I want to take a brief moment. Because the people watching this channel aren't casual viewers. You're someone who takes your health seriously, someone who refuses to be a passive passenger in the aging process, and that matters more than you know. If this is new information for you, drop a comment below. Just say, I didn't know. It helps our community understand how widely overlooked this really is. And if you haven't subscribed yet, this is a channel that is built entirely for people like you. Now, the part you've been waiting for. Because understanding the danger is only half the equation. The other half is knowing what to do about it, starting tomorrow morning. Researchers in the longevity and oncology space increasingly point to 3 breakfast profiles as genuinely protective for adults over 60. First, eggs with leafy greens. Eggs are rich in choline, a nutrient that supports liver detoxification and has been shown in a 2021 study from the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition to reduce inflammatory markers significantly in adults over 55. Combined with spinach or arugula, you get a powerful dose of folate, which is critical for DNA repair, the body's own cancer defense mechanism. Second, plain steel-cut oats with berries and walnuts. Unlike instant oatmeal, steel-cut oats have a glycemic index roughly 40% lower. The beta-glucan fiber they contain has been specifically studied for its ability to reduce IGF-1 levels, a growth factor that, when elevated, significantly accelerates tumor growth risk. Third, full-fat Greek yogurt with ground flaxseed. The combination of high-quality protein, anti-inflammatory omega-3 fatty acids from flaxseed, and beneficial probiotic bacteria creates a gut environment that actively supports immune surveillance, the body's primary defense against rogue cells becoming something more dangerous. But timing is everything, and this next part may surprise you. I want you to hear something, and I want you to really hear it. This is not a story about fear. The biology we've discussed today is not a life sentence. It is a map. And maps exist for one purpose, to show you where to go. What the science is telling us, loudly and clearly, is that the choices made at breakfast every single morning have a measurable biological impact on the internal environment of your body. And that environment is something you have genuine, real control over. You are not at the mercy of your age. You're at the mercy of your habits. And habits can change. People in their 60s, 70s, even 80s who make these breakfast shifts report not just better energy, but improved cognitive clarity, lower inflammation markers in follow-up labs, and a renewed sense of agency over their own biology. The body, even at 65 or 75, responds to being cared for. It is never too late to change the chemistry of your mornings. Let's bring this together. The number one breakfast food quietly feeding cancer cells after 60 is not mysterious. It's the high glycemic, refined grain staples sitting in most pantries across the world. Cereal, sweetened oatmeal, white toast, flavored granola. Foods that spike blood glucose, trigger postprandial inflammation, suppress immune surveillance, and create the exact cellular environment that allows abnormal cells to flourish undetected. The replacement is equally clear. Eggs and greens, steel-cut oats with berries, or full-fat Greek yogurt with flaxseed. Simple, affordable, and backed by some of the most compelling longevity research published in the last decade. Your challenge for this week: replace one morning cereal with one of these three options. That's it. One breakfast, one change. Because transformation doesn't require a revolution. It just requires a different decision the next time you walk into your kitchen. If this video opened your eyes to something important, share it with someone over 60 who deserves to know. Leave a comment below telling me which breakfast you're going to try first. Subscribe if you want more evidence-based content designed specifically for the health challenges of your decade of life. Because the most powerful thing you own is not a supplement or a prescription. It's the fork in your hand first thing in the morning.